And now let's get reaction from Trump 2020 campaign National Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Kayleigh, they're never going to stop, are they?
Hi, Steve. No, they're not, because they are power-driven, they are substance-free, and they have one goal, which is take down this president. It's why Obama's FBI and DOJ began investigating him before he was ever even inaugurated, and it's why now they continually move the goalposts, because they will never admit that President Trump was duly elected, beat Hillary Clinton and the Democrats fair and square, so they must take him down via investigations. That is their goal.
That's right, and you can see it. I mean, all this talk they have about, oh, yeah, well, actually, you know, we want to work on prescription drugs or any of the other stuff, infrastructure they keep going about. The second that there's the opportunity to actually focus on this Russia obsession that they have, that's where they go. It's revealed by their actions.
Exactly. And meanwhile, there have been 2,800 subpoenas, 500 search warrants, 500 interviews, the most exhaustive of investigations. And meanwhile, the president remains steadfastly focused on the issues. But what do the Democrats do now that this is all wrapped up? They don't say, we'll work with you, Mr. President. We'll solve prescription drugs. We'll work with you to make the economy even better than it already is, if that's even possible. They want to investigate more. They don't care that the polls say the American people don't want that. They don't care about the issues, and they certainly don't care about the livelihood and well-being of the American people.
I know, and it's incredible to me that they can be so out of touch, and it says to me that there's something really deep here. Like I was just saying, they're just really offended by the fact that the people kicked out the establishment and put this this outsider into power, and they just think that's like, how dare you? You can't do that. We should be in power. That's what's driving all of this, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, I was there during the 2016 election with the mainstream media on the sets, hearing these pundits, saying that there's no chance that President Trump's going to win. Meanwhile, anyone who took an honest assessment of this country, who traveled the roads, who heard about this populist conservative movement, knew that there was unprecedented support for this president, that he'd win an electoral landslide, more than 300 electoral votes. You could see it if you actually left the echo chambers of Manhattan and New York and went to the heartland. And they are so disturbed because they can never see it coming, and they also don't see the 2020 victory on the horizon, which we very clearly do over at the campaign.
So Kayleigh, just do you think that the president will be able to get any kind of positive agenda going in the next few months until we're really into the heat of the campaign?
I do. Think about all that he has had to do unilaterally, Steve. 450 miles of a southern barrier structure are going to be up by the end of 2020. Why? Solely because of President Trump. The economy is roaring, again, solely because of President Trump and some allies in Congress who made tax cuts possible. And prescription drugs, $26 billion were saved for consumers last year, the first time in 46 years that prescription drugs have had any sort of savings, all because of the unilateral action of President Trump. He needs some help here, so Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, start working for the American people and stop caring about your own political interests.
Good, well said, Kayleigh. And by the way, that's what we're going to be focusing on for a lot of tonight's show.
Well, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will be leading a conference call amid members of her party tomorrow to coordinate the response and chart a path forward for the Democratic Party's strategy on the Mueller report's findings. Speaker Pelosi saying Democrats will, quote, not be silent. We're now joined by one Democratic member of that caucus, California Congressman Mark DeSagne, also a member of the House Oversight and Reform Committee. Congressman, welcome to Fox News.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter too, sir, of course. You will likely be on that call tomorrow. What do you expect to hear, and what do you think your party will now do?
Well, I think the Speaker will outline everything that's happened since we've been away for a week, and we'll have disparate views from members of a very large conference that represents all kinds of different individuals in the United States.
Some of those members of the conference, some of the more progressive ones, as you know, are calling for impeachment. Putting in a bill, Congresswoman Tlaib has done that for Michigan. Of course, you have Elizabeth Warren, the senator yesterday, saying that she supports impeachment and says that the president should be impeached, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib among others. But some of the representatives of the status quo in the Democratic Party are kind of pumping the brakes on that. Here's House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler, who's saying, hold on a minute on impeachment talk. Here's what he said.
You don't impeach somebody, you don't bring an impeachment procedure unless, one, you think you can prove that the president's committed impeachable offenses. Two, they're serious impeachable offenses, not just, you know. And three, and this is a more prudential thing, I don't think you should bring an impeachment proceeding unless you believe at the beginning of that proceeding, when you're starting, that you have such strong evidence of such terrible deeds that once that is laid out to the American people, an appreciable fraction of the people who supported the president will agree reluctantly you had to do that.
Congressman, do you believe there are impeachable offenses in that report?
Well, I think we have to focus on what's in the report. I think every American should read the report. It's really two sections. And to me, the first is probably the most alarming. And that is that Mr. Mueller showed very specifically that the Russians were involved in our election. He said it was sweeping and systematic. They reached 126 million Americans. Their desire is to make America look foolish and to punish us for standing up for moral authority in previous administrations. So I think we should focus on our constitutional responsibility, having open public hearings, not politicize them, focus on the facts, and let the public see. This is where America's worked the best. It's a little bit of semantics to me. To be full disclosure, I have voted for Al Green's impeachment, referring impeachment to the judiciary twice. I was a co-author of Steve Cohen's impeachment in the previous Congress. I feel very strongly that this president should be called in front of the American public. Having said that, we've never actually removed a president, as you know, historically in the United States. Andrew Johnson came within one vote of being removed in the U.S. Senate. So we've got to focus on what's important and what's in the report. American voters need to know that we are under attack from a foreign power that wants to elect Republicans and wanted to elect President Trump.
Well, the report does say that there were many links, of course, between the campaign and members of the campaign and the Russians, but completely cleared the president and the campaign, saying that there was no coordination or collusion with that Russian effort, that presumably will continue. And so on what basis have you supported those moves for impeachment?
Well, the founders didn't say anything about collusion when they wrote the Constitution and impeachment proceedings. In fact, as the report says, collusion is not in the criminal code. It's conspiracy, and that's very hard to prove, as Mr. Mueller, and having gone through the report twice, I'm not a lawyer, but that's separate. To me, that's important. I'm not downgrading it. John Radcliffe, who is a friend, but I disagree with him on this. The focus should be that a year from now, Americans, voters, are going to be deep into a presidential election, and the Russians are going to be back, and I don't think we're prepared for that. I want American voters to be very aware of the fact that there are people who have weaponized social media in a sophisticated way to attack American democracy. If American voters, whether Republicans or Democrats, are aware of that, I have faith that they will make the right decision.
And at the same time, while you're concerned about the Russian attack on our democracy, what about what critics are saying is the internal attack, in a sense, about those who say that the whole start of this administration, not the administration, the effort was crooked. I mean, they talk about the alleged FISA abuses. Do you think that that should be investigated, as William Barr is going to start a task force? The IG is, Michael Horowitz at DOJ is investigating that. Should there be a full and fair investigation of the Carter Page FISA warrant, and so Americans can find out exactly what went into that, and if the FBI officials were or were not trying to spin it?
I believe that all of us who believe in this country and believe in democracy and respect the sacrifice that millions of Americans in our history have made to protect American democracy and the Constitution and your ability to vote should be focused on that, and to make sure that American voters in less than a year from now are aware of who's manipulating the process. I have faith in American voters. As Lincoln said, if you give Americans the facts, the best will come out. So, but we have to do that, and I would really hope that all of my colleagues in the Congress, in the administration, would really focus on that. We can be conservatives, we can be liberals, but we have to focus on what's best in America and letting the voters know who's behind these efforts. And morality and ethics should be nonpartisan.
Let it be known that the Russians did snitch more than 70,000 voter registration data information from the Board of Elections in Illinois. We'll be going back, covering that story again to protect our election system, to make sure it is fair and run properly. Congressman Mark Tessari of California, thank you, Congressman, for joining us. And again, happy Easter, of course.
Thanks.
Right, Al?